Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Let's Talk. My name is Mário, and over the next hour, we'll be talking about consciousness research in Australia, which will host this year an international conference in October, right? Feel free to drop your questions in the YouTube comments anytime, but don't forget, don't believe in anything, not even in what we say here in our program. Have your own experience. Co-hosting this discussion with me today is Ulisses Schosser. Welcome to this edition of Let's Talk. Ulisses, what are expectations for today's conversation?
Hi, Mário. Good morning. Well, we will have a very special conversation on a subject that sure may be one of the most important for our planet. And let's see what our friends will tell us about that.
Very good, Ulisses. Well, so let me introduce the team today, a very special team. Two of them are abroad. Jeffrey Lloyd has a degree in economics and 2 postgraduate diplomas in management and information technology. He's an independent researcher of the neuroscience, projectology, and conscientiology since 1996. He now lives in Australia. Jeff was previously the founder and director of a non-profit organization, ASSIPI, Interassistential Services for the Internationalization of Conscientiology, which is involved in numerous projects to help internationalize conscientiology. Welcome, Jeff, for this talk.
Hey guys, thank you for the warm welcome. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be with old friends and to be sharing some thoughts and a bit of the history and perhaps some perspective of what the future can look like for us. The emerging future is a nice way to think about it. Looking forward to it.
Very good, Jeff. Very good to have you here today. Jaclyn Cowen. Jaclyn has a background in urban planning and urban design and currently works as an English teacher. She moved to Foz do Iguaçu, Brazil, from Australia. In 2014, she has been a volunteer of Conscientiology since 2007. Teacher since 2010 and is currently coordinating the international area of the CRX, Center of High Studies of Conscientiology. She's a co-author of the Glossary of Essential Terms of Conscientiology, which is this one, right, Jaclyn? And once again, welcome to Let's Talk, Jaclyn Cowen.
Thank you, Mário, and co-author with Jeff, who's also one of the authors there. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
But happy to be here. Thanks, Mário. Happy to be talking about this topic that's, I feel very connected to.
Good, Jaclyn. And also Kim McCaul is a consulting anthropologist and linguist with over 20 years of applied work with Aboriginal people in Australia. He has been engaged with conscientiology since 1997 and volunteered in several conscientiocentric institutions since then. He has been a conscientiology instructor since 1998 and Penta practitioner since 2008. Welcome again, Kim.
Thank you, Mário. Lovely to be here again and lovely to be here with Ulisses and, of course, the Australian team.
Very good. This event is hosted by ASSIPI, which stands for International Association for Interstitial Parapsychism, a conscientiocentric institution specialized in the study, research, development, and practical use of parapsychism, an indispensable attribute for consciential evolution. ASSIPI English project is engaged in the internationalization of conscientiology, right? And is focused on promoting the study of the parapsychism worldwide. Is everything okay? Then you can, Ulisses?
Yes, my friends, and welcome everyone who will listen this video. It is a great honor for all of us to be hearing this subject and to be together with our friends in Australia. I'd like to say that I feel connected in a field of joy to be talking with you. Okay, this event, your work, I think that it has a meaning. It has been observed and helped by a lot of helpers, extra physical helpers, and I'm feeling connected with you. I feel a great joy right now. And welcome, everyone. And for those people who will listen to this video, I would tell you, listen what our friends will say. Well, and there's a very good work being developed in Australia, and I suppose that our talk today will be around this very important event. It is the first Australian Pacific Conference on para-urbanology and serenology. So, my friends, I would ask you, what is the purpose of these events?
Kim, I think you should take the baton on that one.
I'll jump in on that one. Well, the purpose of the event is, like, I guess everything that we do is kind of multi-layered, right? Multidimensionality. We're all studying it, working between the physical and the extra-physical dimension. And when we create activities, they themselves are multidimensional. So they have a purpose for us here as researchers, but they also have purposes extra-physically, multidimensionally. And so the first Australasian Pacific conference on para-urbanology and serenology, first of all, is to unite researchers from around the world, and we're having people coming from Europe, from Brazil, from across Australia to speak on these two important topics. And those two important topics, para-urbanization and serenology, really go hand in hand, because para-urbanology deals with the hard work of assistance, the sort of, almost you could say, the dark side of spiritual life, if you want to talk about it like that, right? Like with the assistential work that we do, working with consciousnesses in a lot of need and assisting consciousnesses in multidimensionally. And serenology is, in a way, where you can say where we get the strength from. It's our goal, our own goal, individually, to move towards the state of serenity and becoming Homo sapiens serenissimus. But it also is the avenue through which we connect with the helpers at a very high level who work together around para-urbanization. So the event brings together these related topics intellectually. It brings us together as researchers from around the world. We are hoping to introduce these topics to people in Australia who know multidimensionality from different ways, perhaps. Maybe they studied Conscientiology before, maybe they studied multidimensionality through different avenues, but they perhaps haven't been, had the chance to understand the subject through these particular concepts. And we were just talking about it before we started rolling, right? That quite a few people who are in different ways connected to this event, they are noticing that there are multidimensional repercussions and multidimensional effects happening as people are coming together towards having this event. So that would be my answer about that.
Yeah, I think the event is like, we had a lot of activities here in the past in Australia, and even many in Adelaide as well, right? And but then there was a hiatus, sort of a period where we weren't active collectively and individually and directly exposing these ideas to the public in a more broader sense. And so this inspiration that Kim had to sort of mount this conference on these themes is really great to see and to be a part of. And obviously the idea behind much of what Conscientiology seeks to do, at least in my interpretation of it, is work with evolved, intelligent, lucid, extra-physical consciousnesses to try to understand the flows and the mechanisms of evolution and how we can play a small part in this much bigger picture that is orchestrated and coordinated and managed for everybody, for the collective. And then we try to align ourselves as best as possible and do what we can within that maxi mechanism. So we act like a mini piece, a small piece in this maxi mechanism. And that's this. I think this conference is an effort in that regard, as is much of the work that all the non-profit organisations around the world and all the thousands of volunteers around the world who work with Conscientiology seek to do. And again, not based on belief, but based on our own personal experiences of the theories and the ideas which are being presented, which are challenging, and we should put them in our to be confirmed basket, right, in our minds until we've had our own practical personal experiences of different things that allow us to confirm those theories and those methods and the approaches and the ideas and go beyond just understanding the logic of it to actually having the practical experience of those things. And so this conference, although there's a lot of intelligence and theory and ideas, there's also going to be a mixture of practical activities as well.
Jaclyn, what's your expectation about the event?
Yeah, look, for me, I because I'm living in Brazil, so I haven't been as involved with the group in the preparation, the planning. But, for me, I think it's going to be just a great opportunity for, first of all, for the people there in Australia to connect, to provide that assistance and also that access to new information, and also for the public here in Brazil who don't know much about Australia. They have maybe certain ideas about Australia, but for people to to show them this what Australia is about, and also to go deeper into these ideas and the research of the event. So looking forward to it.
Good.
Thank you. Well, I imagine that many times you may have very personal sensations on this hard work. You're leading a very, very hard work. And I'm curious about how do you feel in this situation? And more than that, I would ask you, what about the preparation work? And if you can tell us in the global scenario, in the multidimensional scenario, about your experience in organizing this work. What can you tell us?
I'll start off again maybe, and we'll do the rounds. From my perspective, one of the highlights has been growing the Australian team. So there's pretty much 10 of us involved in Australia. And I mean, Jaclyn is actually, even though she says she's not as involved, she's actually helping from Brazil, and there's other people helping from Brazil. And we're all scattered around in Australia. Australia's a very big country, right? So, I mean, I live in Adelaide, Jeff's on the Sunshine Coast. It's probably 1,500 kilometers or something between us. We've got other people in other parts of the country, Brisbane and so on. But we started working as a team, right, which we didn't have a purpose before. So that's been a big impact. The other thing on a more, I guess, in the level of kind of synchronicities, and I think that's the sort of thing you're getting at, Ulisses, maybe, is some things that are arising is the idea was, when the idea came to create this event, it was very clear to call it that it had to be Australasian Pacific, even though it's happening in Australia, right? And I personally have never had any really much contact with the Pacific Islands in particular. It's not been featuring in my life world. I'm very much focused on Aboriginal communities in Australia and living in Australia. But over the last year, pretty much since we've started moving towards this event, I've had all these connections arise with Pacific Islands in different ways, meeting people that are involved there, coming across particular resources in unexpected ways and so on. So yeah, that's been one of the several interesting side effects. I don't know what's been like for you, Jeff.
Yeah, it's been subtle, I suppose I would say. I mean, obviously, when we're doing these kinds of tasks, that is engaging with the multidimensional process to try to present and manifest something which has some significance and meaning for the intraphysical people who attend, but perhaps even more relevantly and more importantly, the extraphysical people. So, the non-physical consciousnesses who are involved and are going to be utilizing the energies of the people who are there to try to assist and make some changes occur in non-physical environments. So when we engage in this kind of work, it's a energy in, energy out kind of a thing. So the donation of energy, of your energy, of your vicinity, of your extra physical space around you, of your sphere of energies, of whatever you can contribute to the cause is quite palpable. So, and that's not always that doesn't always come with like the most pleasant of sensations, right? So like if you're engaging with something hard, you tend to feel something a little bit harder. Like it's a natural consequence of that.
Okay.
It might sound paradoxical. The thing being though is that the satisfaction that comes from engaging in that work, overwhelms any temporary, sensations. So anyway, just to explain that a little bit.
Okay. Well, you know that we don't have all the time here, but if you have any special report, please tell us about that. Okay. And
Sure.
Jaclyn, do you want to say?
Yeah, I might just add because, being here in Brazil, but participating in many different parapsychic activities, dynamics, we call them, and also personal perceptions that I've had. And the more that you connect to the event and all of that, you start to I have perceived that there is like, how can I say, more perceptions in relation to Australia, to different places in Australia. So, and I guess ultimately, assistance. So, this event, of course, and everything that it involves and all the people involved and the efforts that, the individual volunteers are making to create this event, it all has a repercussion. The helpers, meet us halfway, and also, it's something bigger. It's something bigger than probably we even realize. So, and we all have our own individual, like, little perceptions, but, we don't see the full picture. So, but it's interesting.
Thank you. And I would now invite you to offer to our listeners, if you can say more concrete words about the event. How it is organized and designed. Well, what could you say about the event? How it's designed? Okay, what is going to happen there?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's 3 days. We have a Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the Adelaide Convention Centre, and it's going to be essentially a combination of presentations. So we have about 15 presenters which will be split over the days. And there's a fairly even split between people focused mainly on serenology and Homo sapiens serenissimus, and people focused on power reurbanization. But we're really keen for the event to be interactive, so for people to have time to discuss among themselves, with the presenters. So we're going to have a range of spaces to allow that, so people can really reflect on the exercise. Every day there's going to be a couple of hours dedicated to bioenergy exercises. So we will as a group, create an energetic field through the work that we'll do on different kinds of energetic processes. And a couple of other, I think, interesting activities. We have a guest presenter from the US who will talk about Dr. Nelson. I can't remember his first name right now. Roger Nelson. Yeah. Who's essentially, he's outside of Conscientiology, but he's a long-standing consciousness researcher, essentially looking at the global field of consciousness, right? How humanity as a collective may be impacting each other and share consciousness. He's a really experienced researcher, and so he's going to give a special presentation on the second day. And the other special activity, I think, is one of the Australian researchers, Tony Muskop, who's got a long experience in serenological research. And he's going to take us through a session in which we will look at self-serenology, right? So explore the attributes that we already manifest and the extent to which we manifest of Serenissimus. So the idea is to have a real mix of new information, energy, which we all know changes the game, right? Helps us connect with the extra-physical team, is a big part of the existential process, and a lot of self-reflective sort of practices.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey. And there is something very special that it is happening in Australia, in Sydney. And we are talking with Jaclyn about that, and the meaning of this event for you and for the world. Well, it's taking place in your homeland, okay?
Yeah, that's right.
Go ahead, Jaclyn. Go ahead.
No, how could I say? Yeah, I'm super excited. Like, this is like the one of a kind, kind of the first of its kind, this kind of event, and to to take advantage of showing.
You presented, yeah.
Sorry, I will present.
You are receiving a gift too.
Yes, of course,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah. And how could I say, for people to get to understand a little bit better Australian culture, and how could I say, so for part of the after the event, there's going to be a tour in Sydney for 3 days, so it's the following weekend. And so, but really it's about just as a cultural historical, showing the nature of the place, and just giving people like a real taste of the Australian culture in Sydney. And how could I say? I guess we'll only see once we get there the impact of the event and everything. So, but I'm looking forward to it.
Good. I would like to tackle a subject, which is that Australia actually is the first English-speaking country to get connected with the neuroscience, projectology, and conscientiology, right? And here we are with the founder of an international conscientiocentric institution, ASSIPI, right? International Services for the Internationalization of Conscientiology, Jeff Lloyd. Jeff, I'd like you to talk about, right, what actually originated all this interest for conscientiology or the studies of consciousness in Australia, for people to understand exactly where we were, where we are, and where we're going to be, right? So I'd like you to talk about the beginning of ASSIPI and so forth.
Sure. Yeah. So look, it's how far do we go back in history, right? So, but where we began in Australia was back in 2004, and ASSIPI was really only created about a decade later. So we were originally here in Australia, created a nonprofit here in Australia to teach conscientiology and projectology in a very practical, hands-on way. So that was way back then. The idea behind ASSIPI came 10 years later, and a lot of water had passed under the bridge. And it actually happened when I was living in Brazil and I was attending a course. And, we're lying down and trying to have out-of-body experiences and different kinds of experiences. And the idea of something to support the expansion of conscientiology internationally came very clearly. And I was sort of trying to piece together what the main important principles or values or approaches that were required. And so the name is very didactic, right? Like it's like interessential. So we want to help, but we also acknowledge that we are receiving help. And services, because there's a lot of ways, there's a lot of ICs, there's a lot of content, there's a lot of knowledge and experiences and people in Brazil who are fantastic, but they don't know other languages. The vast majority of the research associated with conscientiology was all in Portuguese, or nearly all in Portuguese. And it just seemed like we've got to try to create something to help with that. Now, so which we've done. Jaclyn's been involved from the very start as well, along with Jorn and Fabio. Were there back in the very early days, and then the organization's matured. One thing that I think perhaps is worth mentioning is after some years of ASSIPI doing its work, getting books translated into other languages and getting them published and made available for free on many of the conscientiology websites. And thanks to Sandra Tornieri and Ed Taris for that partnership with ASSIPI. The idea of this need for a supportive, collaborative, cooperative network of organizations or institutions sort of came to mind as well. So this idea of hubs, so consciousness research hubs, came and sort of developed. And interesting, we were talking about parapsychism and trying to capture ideas and perceive things from the non-physical. I was traveling in Rome and I was sleeping in this place in Rome. We were there for about a week or so. And I started having a series of out-of-body experiences where the helpers explicitly were asking, like we're there having a round table, a discussion, and they're going, Jeff, can you please try again to get the Hubs project working, happening, operating, up and running? Because we had previously tried a couple of times and it didn't get the momentum required to go forward. So anyhow, there's an example of the helpers really explicitly asking, and that, in my experience, it's relatively rare that they explicitly ask for some things, but they were very clear about, please try again to help make this collaborative approach to facilitate the expansion of conscientiology and helping all of the non-profit organizations that exist in Brazil to become more internationalized, I think it's fair to say. So, I see the ASSIPI work here as part of your program and stuff is part of that as well. So it's interesting to see where ASSIPI came from and where it's now moving to as well. It's been asked to work to become an institution as opposed to just a sort of a background entity that's doing a lot of work with lots of partners such as ASSIPI and others as well. So yeah, anyway, it's been a really interesting journey and it continues now in different ways.
Okay.
So let's see how it all unfolds.
Good. And actually, Jaclyn has participated in these early works in Australia.
True.
Yes, that's right. That's right. I just had I had an idea this, because it's now 2024, right? 10 years later. So working these 10-year increments, interesting. But yeah, I was, by a nice, happy synchronicity, I arrived in Foz in 2014 to live. And that was the year that, ASSIPI was started. So it was nice to be involved in the beginning efforts, right? The brainstorming moments,
Yeah.
you know, when we were trying to define what ASSIPI would look like and what types of projects we would be involved with. And so it was a nice experience at the beginning. There's a small group of us, but
I think now there's like about 40 odd volunteers, maybe even more. I think is the latest count, which is great. And Isaac's managed to do a lot of things for a lot of organizations. Like we had, and we still have, of course, international weeks in Brazil, where for about 10 days we partner with as many organizations as we can manage, and give courses in English, and people come from overseas to visit CIAC and go to ASSIPI and go to Conscientiology and go to Conscious and go to all sorts of different places and have different experiences, which is, in terms of opening up people's minds or giving them a stronger foundation to base their new understandings on. It's really important. I remember we used to visit Brazil, stay for a couple of weeks, and you leave going, wow, what a different perspective I have on things now, a deeper, more mature kind of approach to understanding the psychic phenomena that we encounter, whether it be clairvoyance or feeling energies or it's more ideas.
Great.
Well, I know that Australia has a very special place in the history in the evolutionary history in our planet, you see, and the kind of species that we find there and things like that. And your group, this group we are talking now, is a very special group, and now you are showing results, accomplishments, okay? And I don't know about this connection, about the meaning of this movement in Australia. It's something very special. You're bringing a very deep and important subject for all of us. Para-urbanology and serenology, those subjects together. In Australia, you see, there is something very special there. So first of all, many, many congratulations for this kind of accomplishment, results. And I don't know, I'm very curious why this is happening in Australia. And I don't know if you can talk something about the prospects of your current work with Conscientiology in New Zealand, in the nearby regions, in Australia, all this kind of connection. I don't know, how do you see that?
I might pick a thread out of that, what you just raised there, Ulysses, just because it's been on my mind at the moment, because I'm in Europe right now, right? I'm traveling in Germany. I spent a few weeks in Romania before that, and I've been reminded yet again of the many more layers of history that exist in this part of the world, and that I also know exist throughout Asia and throughout Africa, of thousands of years of people's kind of warfare and changing movements and a lot of traumatizing events layered upon each other, wars and pestilence and all these kinds of things. And when you come to and when you think at Australia, which has been separated essentially from the rest of the world, with a few small exceptions in the far north, for at least 50,000 years. I mean, the dingo came somewhere in the middle there, but the culture, Aboriginal culture, has been, we know, the same for at least 40, 50,000 years. And I've been thinking about in terms of consciousness, right? So now for the last 200 years, we've had colonization, and we've had people from all over the world coming to Australia. And the experience to be there is very different. I would say I've heard visitors that come there who are kind of attuned to the energies describe it as a certain lightness, because you have ancient history, of course, the Aboriginal history, but it's just not that same. And now then we're not talking the same numbers of people. We're not talking the same density. We're not talking the same mass trauma events that happen throughout much of the rest of the world. And so I have a feeling, and I don't have the full understanding, but my impressions that I'm starting to get is that Australia offers a particular evolutionary space for consciousnesses now in this era of change. And I guess somehow we're making whatever contribution we're making through the ideas of conscientiology, bringing them into the mix. I don't exactly know what that is, but I do think that Australia offers a particular environment that is different from pretty much the rest of the world in which consciousness to create something new, perhaps.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea, Kim. Like the density of the holothosine here is, well, it's not really dense, so to speak. It's a modern country. The population has been very sparse and distributed over a very wide space, so it's not condensed or compacted like many other places. And also, there's despite there being a streak of conservative stuff, it's still far from being those rigid traditions that you find in many other places. So there's a degree of experimentalism, which I think this region, Australia and New Zealand, are similar in that nature. I think it offers. New Zealand's often referred to as very creative, because you have to be, because you've got no one else to depend on. You've got to just make things happen and make things work, and that's kind of like what evolution is, right? Like, you have to depend on yourself. You have to make things work, and so it's interesting that the themes of this conference are very advanced ideas in conscientiology. They're not like the basic level stuff. They're some of the most advanced ideas we can proffer, and they're the ones that have landed and that we're going to be talking about. So that, I think, in itself sort of says a lot around the environment and the potential for those ideas to take hold. And kind of interestingly, Kim, a month ago, maybe it was now, we were down in Adelaide and we went to that festival, that fair, and we were talking to a lot of people and explaining these ideas. And a lot of people, so we were explaining about the conference, the ideas of the conference is focused on. And people were just like, we're getting it. Like, with no background and no large, series of courses and workshops. It's just like, this in 5 minutes, you're explaining serenology and reurbanology, and people were like going, oh, okay. Yeah. And it's like, okay. Yeah. So you're getting the idea. So it's, you never want to judge too many things too quickly or have too big of hopes, but let's see what unfolds from it all. Jack, what's your take?
Yeah, it's interesting listening to both of you speak, and I agree with you guys. And just to compliment, because I think we don't have that pressure that maybe some other countries have, and it's like, and the traditionalisms or the traditional culture, it's more there is a level of how could I say, it's more modern, it's more receptive maybe to these ideas than some.
And it's well structured, right? Like, it's well structured and organized. Some new countries are a bit chaotic, a bit disorganized, whereas here it's wealthy, it's well organized.
That's right. And I was thinking, and also it's interesting because there is quite a large group of volunteers that decided to come and live in Australia, and that's kind of like, considering the size of the population of Australia, that's actually quite a high percentage, right, in terms of people going to live there. So that's something. And of course, Kim, we have to give, for you to have that idea and to take it forward and to get, to help realize this event, and the other volunteers as well that were involved with that. So it's all these different pieces, right, that come together. But who's to say that, like, it wasn't meant to happen in other countries around the world? It didn't happen for some reason. You know what I mean? The pieces didn't come together in the same way, but for various reasons.
Isn't it interesting, like this, the very long past that Kim mentioned here in Australia, like very long past, continuous civilization with the Aboriginals for 40, 50,000 years. And then this very modern, new English-speaking culture comes along, and then it's like, okay, so paraurbanology. How are these two very different spaces, kind of being linked, right, and being taken into the future, and how are both interacting with and affecting and influencing each other?
Yeah.
So the lessons from the past, what the Aboriginals know and understand, and how that can influence us, and what they don't understand, and so on, and vice versa. That I think is sort of a fascinating concoction of possibilities.
Interesting.
And speaking of paraurbanometry and extraphysical urbanization, Jeff Lloyd, I would like you to talk about your topic of research, which is very compelling for me, which is the Homo sapiens serenissimus dat coralis. I think it's so important, this topic, because we hadn't heard of this Homo sapiens serenissimus. But before talking about this one specifically, I would like you to introduce what is all about. What is Homo sapiens serenissimus all about, for people, first timers, understand?
Yeah, absolutely. So Homo sapiens serenissimus are the most evolved consciousnesses on the planet who are still having this imposed cycle of intraphysical lives. So we are all in the same line of evolution. All of us, everyone will be a serenissimus at some stage in the future of their evolution. There's just some other consciousnesses have got there and have learned the things they needed to master themselves. So they're having their last few physical lives and experiences. So their level, and you can see from the name that's been attributed to them by Dr. Vieira, serenissimus, based from serenity, which basically means imperturbable. They don't have discomfort, they don't have dramas, they don't have issues, all of that stuff they know and have resolved and solved way in that. So they have this mastery. I don't like using the word mastery over energy, right? Because I think it's a far away from all of us in terms of capabilities. But from all accounts, it seems they have this mastery of their own internal micro universe and a fantastic control over their own body and energies and the energies of the environments around them. So they create this near imminent energy pattern, even though they are a consciousness with the thoughts and the emotions that we have. So, they're a very interesting case study. And one of the big things about them is they're anonymous, right? We don't see them. We don't see them day to day or know about them. They're not on the TVs. They're anonymous, because the level of abilities they have, if we all saw them, we'd be like freaking out. We wouldn't be able to cope with it. They'll be like persecuted and not understood, and would make a bigger mess. So that's my take on the serenissimus. That's sort of, and there's many of them, I should say, right? So when I say many, the estimate is about one per billion of people, whether the people are physical people or non-physical people. So on this planet, we think that's perhaps around 60 billion in total, which would mean, perhaps up to 60 serenissimi connected to Earth, involved in trying to help the evolution of this planet and connecting it on a broader level to the rest of the cosmos. So,
Mario,
All right.
I'd like to ask to our friends what people may know to participate, but I suppose that we will talk about that right now or by the end. What do you think?
As you wish.
Okay.
That's fine.
Because I see that the subject is so interesting that people may be thinking how to be in contact with you, how to participate in the event, how it's going to be that.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You basically go to the conference website, which I'd say the best thing is if we put them in the description of this video, right? It's on the icons.org website, but easiest to find if there's a link in the description of the video. And there's pretty much all the information there. To register, you can register online, and you can contact us for any questions. So, yeah. And I think it would be good, because Jeff was just about to go on to Corrales, right? Which is his research topic, which he will also be talking about at the conference.
Yeah, true. Yeah, look, so people would ask me in the past, where's the Serenissimus in Australia? And it's kind of like, oh, I don't know. But then,
Jeffrey, do you have any report? Do you have any report?
Yeah, well, yes, I'll tell you sort of briefly what happened, right? I started trying to find it. I went to a place which was close to the big. This is going to sound a little bit funny, but the big banana. There's a big banana. There's a big pineapple. And so I went to where the big banana is, because I love the expression that
that's
Dr.
actually
Vera used to use.
I think. Sorry, Jeffrey. I think it's a good. I think this might be an important little bit of culturalism of Australia, right? Because Australia is a new country. We don't have the Eiffel Tower. We don't have the Arc de Triomphe. We don't have the Big Ben. We have the big banana, the big mango, the big crayfish, the big koala between Melbourne and Adelaide.
Don't diss the big banana. It's a great place. I have lots of good memories there.
And so I started trying to find where was the Serenissimus in Australia. So scanning and thinking, well, where would, and how do you do that? Like, try to create a rapport and empathy. So if where would a Serenissimus be? So you try to find it. Anyway, so I thought the big banana was a chance. So because Voldo used to love saying banana technique for everyone, and so I went there and I got a wee thing for him. I got a big banana sticker for him, and he actually kept that in the tertularium in his box of things there for the years afterwards. So it was quite funny. But anyway, no, I went on another trip to the region around Hervey Bay, and when I got onto the plane, we got moved to a row 13. So last minute it got changed. And Dr. Vera had said, like, if you're traveling and the number 13 comes up all the time, it's a good sign. It's like you're on the right track. And so that happened at the gate when I was getting on the plane. I was like, hey, what's happening? Okay, interesting. And then I was seated next to a German exchange student from Heidelberg, I think. And I remembered the Reurbanizer, who is a known Serenissimus, the most strongest one we've had exposure to, who came from the lower part of Germany and so on as well. So I thought about that already. And then when I landed in the place, after there was a number of other things, but I'm going to hurry up so I don't take too long. There was a number of other factors and synchronicities that occurred, but what happened is I was driving to the hotel, and the idea really clearly came, take the next left. And I was like, okay, sure, why not? So I took the next left, went 100 meters or two down the road, and saw this massive sign on the side of the road, and the big word in red at the top of the sign was Sereno, Sereno. And I was like, what? Like, I was just like, and when I saw that and I just was impacted, I had a massive shower of energy. Like, even now I'm having a shower of energy again when I tell these stories to people who are more, connected. And it's like, and I was just sort of giggling to myself and laughing, going, that's crazy. Like, what are we, because the very clear message for me, and with all these other synchronicities, which I haven't explained all in this brief description, but came together, and I was like, wow, okay, yeah. So, and the energies there in that whole region for me were really, really good and like really positive. And I was like, going, this is nice. So, so sort of like for me, it was a sort of a tele-guided moment where you've been taken to a particular place to have a certain understanding. And so I sort of enjoyed that. And then driving down the road again back to go to the hotel, to continue to the hotel, I saw Zephyr Street. So like maybe a kilometer or two down the road, there's a Zephyr Street. So Zephyr for everyone is the name that Dr. Waldo Vieira goes by extraphysically is Zephyrus, which is the same root of the thing. So here's Zephyr Street, very close to where this other experience happened. And then there was an Apex Park. So Apex is another non-profit institution in the realms of conscientiology. It's about the existential program. So like in a very small moment of time, I'm having these things happen and I'm going, wow. And I have to say that night when I'm sleeping and having out of the projections, leaving the body and having lucid projections, there was a very strong series of experiences. I went back a couple of years later with other friends and have told other people about it. And when I was telling the story, showers of energy again and again, confirming and to share with others. And when I went back again a couple of years later, again, nighttime out-of-body experiences, another really strong, like it was 6 or 7 lucid out-of-body experiences that night in that same region. And now I happen to live, and this was not my fault, kind of my fault, but not entirely mine, a couple of hours to the south of that region. So quite close in Australia to where that region is. So yeah, very interesting. And there's been some other insights and names like the name Corrales, was reflecting, well, what could be the main focus of this consciousness in this region? What's the big thing that's going on that we may not be thinking of? And so the coral reef, the Great Barrier Reef, the biggest living organism on Earth, is off the coast, starting up around that region and going for 2,000 to 3,000 kilometers up the coast. So there's things, plus all of the Aboriginal, this very long past in this island, this continent, and this potential of this very dynamic emerging future, which we're seeing how that interaction is going to play out. So yeah, there's a brief overview. Sorry if I took too long to explain anything there.
No, that's a fantastic story. Really, I'm really interested in this kind of research because this may explain lots of things that is happening at the moment, right, in Australia.
Yeah, and I think we need to be open to sharing that stuff, having them been open to it, poking around, and share what experiences we have. We don't have all the answers. We have many more questions than answers, but I think it's important to share what we have.
It is a very beautiful name. The Serenismus may be very happy with this name.
Jaclyn has an addendum here.
Talking about names, I might just add, it's just, one more piece of possible information. I think it was the day, Jeff, you were going to present about the Serenismus. And that morning in my Penta, I distinctly heard the words like, her name is Coralia. So who knows?
A female, in a female body, consciousness doesn't have sex, of course, but in our body we have. But so it's interesting. So
nice.
We got close, and don't want to give away too much, right? So that's the way it is. So it's interesting, absolutely.
So the Serenissimus received a gift.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's us who receives the gifts. Anytime there's anything talking about Serenissimus and these things, I think it's us who's receiving the most by a long way.
Mario?
Yes, so we are approaching the end of our talk. We have more 4 minutes, right? So I just would like to our staff in the background to please the flyer of the event once again, just to close with a message, right? The first Australasia Pacific Conference on Para-Romanology and Serology is taking place in Adelaide, Australia, from 18 to 20 October this year, right? Here you have, we have placed also the link for registration, haven't we? All right, hope so. But we'll just leave, yes, in the icon.org. Okay, so that's that, people. Let's go for the wrapping up awards. Keith McCaul, thank you very much, Keith, for your participation.
Thank you, Mario, for the invitation. It's really good. It's part of the build up to this event, just to have the opportunity to speak about it, to reconnect. Every time we reconnect with these ideas, I think it adds energy to the process. And if anybody listening feels inspired to come along and join us for the event, even better. So I really appreciate the opportunity. I enjoyed hearing the Corrales story. I've heard it before, but there's always little elements to it. There was some added energy for me there today, so that was really nice. And yeah, thanks to you and Ulisses for the opportunity.
Very good.
Yeah, anytime. Oh, and here's Jack. Here's the flyer for the activity.
Yeah. I'll come to the side.
We have one more event taking place over there. So let's go, Jaclyn.
Yeah, so just if you want to put the flyer just very quickly so I can mention. Yeah, so as I said, it's happening in the following weekend. So people who are coming to the big event, you might think about maybe taking a short flight to Sydney, really, and then getting different diverse experiences of Australia. But yeah, it's going to be a fantastic event in Adelaide. It's very rich, lots of different activities, different speakers about different topics. So yeah, come join us there. And thank you for the opportunity to speak once again about Australia and everything related to that.
Yeah, really appreciate the opportunity, Mario, Ulisses. Great to see you guys, and to be part of this thing. And like the point is, what can we do? What do we need to do to get ourselves further down the track as quick as possible, right? Like, I think we've waited all too long, and we've stopped ourselves way too much. I think we need to do whatever we can to accelerate down the path towards Cyrenism. So let's see what we can do, right?
Sure, brilliant. Ulisses?
Thank you, dear friends. It is really a great joy and honor to hear you. Thank you so much. And I hope that everyone who watches this video will feel this feeling too. Thank you so much.
Yes, and I would like to say for all the Conscientiology institution who is actually putting out lives and conversations, that we have to get updates of Australian work, right? From now and then. We have to talk to people from Australia and know exactly what has been done there, because it's very interesting how strong Conscientiology is coming up in Australia. And I truly think that it's just have to grow right over the time. It's very important work. Congratulations, you guys, for the fantastic work that we've been doing in Australia, in that region. Thank you very much for your participation. We didn't have any questions from the audience today, but I think that the talk was very, very good. Very nice. Congratulations. Thank you for accepting the invitation. And people, have a great weekend. See you next Let's Talk. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao. See you guys.